you build your old Astra mythics, and how do you get the most out of your new ones? We're going to talk about how to maximize each one of these units and talk about where they rank and how they're trending. Stick around, we'll talk about all of that in one big chart, but let's get right to the rubric here because I want to go through this quickly. Now, power level is the main thing you're looking at, and that is how influential they are in their individual modes, but mainly in the modes that they're designed for. Then you've got utility. How many modes can you use this unit in? And how good are they in each one of those? And then of course you've got longevity. This is the lowest down the list because honestly it's hardest to predict, but I've still taken that into account here. Let's jump right into tier 3, and we've got the lovely Reginn, Thorr, and Ashera, and I'm sure you're wondering how in the world we're gonna work with these. First up, Reginn. Now, Reginn still has a use as a pot hound, but because we have gone so Catria Ball heavy, there is less weight on that. It is easier to go and get pots now than it ever has been. So the value has dropped down. Also, look at the size of the description of the weapon and the preference skill. That is nuts. Like, I cannot believe they were ever this small. Looking at Heiðr, we get a speed +3, Canto 3 on turn 1 through 4, which is really good. And then attack speed +6 if unit initiates, and then you get a DR of 30% off the first attack. Seiðr Shell is a turn 1 cooldown -3, which is fantastic because it means it's immediately available. You get a boost to the damage of 15, which is good. It's not true damage, but that's still good. And then we get adaptive damage. So how are we going to build this unit? Keep in mind that this unit is up for refine in a year. I wouldn't go out of your way to put really fancy skills on this unit, but there are still some things that will probably be good regardless, and mainly it's in the supportive vein where she shines right now. Looking at the player phase build, Flared Sparrow is amazing. You can warp in with Wings of Mercy 4, and Joint Drive Attack, believe it or not, for these units that are warping in is one of the best C skills still. That is 4 extra attack, and you really need it sometime to punch through. You notice for this player phase build, I didn't switch to Gale Force. That's a possibility if you have a whole lot of cooldown available for you on your team. But sometimes you just need a unit to punch through some very hard to take out other unit. As far as the support build, and I love this one. This is close to what I'm running right now. I don't have attack speed unity, but speed defense snag 4 and infantry speed tactic are excellent in Astra season. Speed defense snag 4 is so underrated, and you can get both of those skills off of rearmed Crom. It's fantastic, and I don't believe a refine is going to power creep either of those. They will probably play more off for player phase, and it's always good to have multiple builds on your units, especially ones that you invest so much into, like Mythics. As far as arena goes, 754 is tough. Like that is low. I will tell you right now that my minimum would be 756 in arena, but understand there are times when you need units that score other than arena. Arena Assault is one when you just need one more unit with a blessing. Milner's Strike is another. This game likes to push scoring because it pushes sales. But anyway, the build there is pretty self-explanatory. Lulls in arena are absolutely fantastic, as is Panic Smoke 4, which is an upgrade to her Panic Smoke 3. And summoners, what can I say? This unit is still very usable even at tier 3. This next one's a little tougher. This is Thorr. And Thorr, if you have seen any of PM1's videos in the last 2 years, you know that Thorr is an absolutely fantastic Gale Force unit, or was. This is a unit with very low speed, very high attack, and pretty high defense. And the problem here is so much of this is out of date. And let's look at the kit in general. War God Milner gives Slang, Armor Effective, which is still good, although not as good as some other things you could have. You get an in-combat attack +6, and you get a debuff on the foe of attack -6. You get a guaranteed follow-up and an Omni Lull. Omni Lull is very good, particularly it can come in handy in both Summoner Duels and Arena. Warbreaker, though, man, this is out of date. Thorr gets special acceleration, and everyone else within 2 spaces does, but yeah, it's not even an effect. You can feud this out. Let's look at the builds though. Player phase is kind of fun. You notice I put Flared Sparrow on here and you're probably wondering why. Honestly, she just needs as much damage as she can possibly get, and I really do think that Flared Sparrow is one of the best ways to do that. This is obviously made to fly in and then use Gale Force and hopefully get 2 hits on the unit and then get Gale Force off. It's very doable, especially considering her attack is low to today's standards because it doesn't have piercing. We'll see what the refined for this ends up being, but that's still a little bit of a ways off, and I don't think Wings of Mercy 4 is probably ever going to be bad on this unit. As far as the pure support, I saw this the moment she was released. Like, this is not an old build, but it does have a few updates. You have Allied Axe, which is the +4 in combat to defense and res. It's pretty good. Aegis is so that she can absorb hits so that she can run around and get pots. Bracing Stance, same. Speed Defense Snag, we've talked about it, but this is a really good... Guard is amazing. A guard is an underrated skill right now, and Speed Defense Snag gets that done. And Defense Res Ploy, and you notice this is a res boon here. So 50 res is enough to use Defense Res Ploy and can give her some added flexibility and can make her kind of fun. Alternately, well, we have that in the next one. Let's talk about Arena, and honestly, she is a very good Arena unit. 756, as we said, is on the lower side, but there's still lots of modes that score. I've given her Ruptured Sky. You've got Sturdy Surge, which I think is more fun than useful here. There's some other things you could do, like Attack, Defense, Catch, but I like Sturdy Surge better. The extra healing is nice. Aerial Maneuvers, though, is fun. And if you can think of how this unit is going to interact, like this is, keep in mind, this is Desperation as well. So you fly in with effective damage and lull. You hit twice, ideally if they don't have no follow-up, and that unit just explodes. So it's fun. Soaring Guidance is so powerful in Arena. Very, very powerful. And in these other modes as well. If you wanted to put Soaring Guidance on, or Guidance 4 on in the support role, I think she could do that very well, and that would be excellent. But Thorr is in need of an upgrade, but we've gotten a lot of things from melee flyers, so you can still use her in that way. Ashera is the next unit up, and oh, Ashera fans, so much of what this unit does is counter to how the meta is going right now. We'll talk about that. Let's just look at the weapon though. I guess to go over this is high attack, high speed, high res, dump defense. So let's look at what this unit brings to the table. Now we've got Order Sentence, we've got attack +3, attack +5 plus X. X equals total bonuses on ally with highest within 2 spaces. So the highest buff of attack gets used for this, and so on and so forth. I think your max is, well, actually with Heiðr, your max gets higher, but normally you'd get around 24, which 29 to attack is not bad at all. It's just, I mean, you're gonna see the length of the descriptions increase, and this is this is very small. Orders Restraint, so this is to unit and allies within 2 spaces. You get attack res +6. There are some conditions there, but essentially that's what you're getting, and then you're getting Null Panic. So let's look at the builds. This is another unit that within probably a year, you're gonna see a refine on. So be careful what you give this unit. This is a little different than Reginn, where I don't think any of that will interfere. It's possible that some of that does overlap with Ashera. With these supportive nukes, there's a wide range of things that you could end up getting. So let's look at it. We have, this is kind of a neat one, and this is something that I used when she first came out. And as an AoE unit, she does get a lot of damage. That's nice. We've got Blazing Flame, Life and Death 4, well, Life and Death 7, Magical No Follow-Up, and Times Pulse 4. You get a few more cooldowns, 2 to be exact, and you're good to go with this unit. And AoE is very, very powerful right now. So this unit is doing an excellent job and can be somewhat of a carry. Obviously, for an AoE team, you have a lot of other other pieces that you're going to fill in there. But still, that's not bad. 77 attack, you'd like that higher, but again, we're doing our best here. As far as the support unit, this is where she gets kind of interesting because I think there are more things you can do here. You've got Stillwater 4 and, well, Stillwater 7, which boosts up your res so that you can do Sabotage AR 3. And Sabotage is way underrated. And then you also get Attack Res Ploy 3. Honestly, this is a really good combo of skills. And if you've got a +10 Ashera sitting around, this is something you can use to help your team. Looking at her in Arena, 754 is again low for Arena exactly, but if you are using her in Arena Assault, like the first team you use, that's what your score is based off of, you can do that, or again, Milner Strike. And you got Attack Speed Finish 4, Desperation 4, which I thought was fun, and then Orders Restraint, you're keeping her C skill. So, what is this doing? This unit is hitting hard. Honestly, she can take out a lot. With Desperation, I am finding that I like it better. I'm finding that it is similar to the old sweep skills. If you remember, the sweep skills kind of kept you alive. But this is nice because you get the Desperation 4 and you get to come in and just smack a unit twice. Normally they go down. The other thing with this unit, Flare is very, very good in the context of this because you are boosting up res. Like, Flare on this unit is pretty good, just like it's good on Veyle. So we've got the next tier up, and whew, Elimine and Naga. These are honestly two very good situational units. Most of these units in Astra are fairly decent and can be used, so don't feel bad if you have one of these older ones. Elimine in particular feels bad because she has fallen off so far though, and I want to talk about some different things you can do, because understand that having a healer on your team is good, period. Just as a mythic, there is a lot you can do with that kind of unit, especially in Save Ball or Omni Tank reference there. So let's quickly go over what this unit is, and we've got medium speed, which is weird to think that 40 is medium speed, but it kind of is right now. We've got Attack 48, which is high-ish, and then we've got high res. Are we seeing a theme with all of our units here? Staff of Saint. We've got Foe Cannot Counterattack, so that is the Dazzling Staff. To allies within 2 spaces, you get Defense Res +6, and then you get False Start in cardinal directions, and that is the thing that has been nerfed so heavily. Keep in mind, False Start isn't good in Summoner duels. It doesn't work very well there. And in Astra, in Anima season, you've got Freyr, who kind of nerfs that hardcore. But let's look at the other thing, Holy Ground here, and to allies within 2 spaces, you get damage reduction of 30%, and you get defense res +4. So that's good stuff. Like, this is not a bad unit. All right, looking at the builds, this first one is interesting. This is kind of a player phase build, and the thing that I was going after was not so much that this unit is player phase, but this is on a player phase team. Because of the warping with Dazzling Shift, she can get into interesting places and can help attack things. And attack of 67 is not bad. And I mean, keep in mind, in this particular case, you're going to be having a unit get guarded, and then the saviors around it get guarded as well. So what that can do is really help your carry take out that main savior that's bugging you, whether that is a near savior or far savior. That's pretty powerful. That combined with Attack Res Ploy can really give some nice debuffs, and this is not a bad build here. For Summoner duels, what I have seen this unit used for is raid boss teams, and I've seen this unit kind of sit behind. The classic example was Asker. This unit was huge when Asker was out originally, and the deal was that she sat behind Bulwark and basically made sure that Asker got healed and that he had lots of damage reduction. In this particular case, you are swapping out her preference staff for Tannin Baton, which is a drive guard. Which honestly is very good either in Summoner duels, or you could possibly use this in a save ball for offense. So keep both of those in mind. The last one I've put up as a this is an arena build. Understand that 752 is really too low for arena. Like that is very low. But healers are also very good in arena. So if you can possibly afford this unit on your team, that's amazing. By the way, I didn't mention this, but keep in mind that if it is the season, if these units are in season, then they can be used on an arena team. And that's really important. I forgot to mention that earlier, and that is kind of key to a lot of these, is that you don't need to use a blessing. Every other week, you can put these on your team with an appropriately blessed legendary and do wonderful things. Oh man, Naga's one of my favorites. Oh, I have 20 Nagas because I saved up all of my orbs on the first Peony banner, and Peony would not come home. I had 3,000 orbs saved up. This was free-to-play orbs too. It hurt my feelings. I did eventually get the Peony, but on to Naga. Divine Breath. Now, this refine is better than folks give it credit for because there are so many dragons, but understand that as dragons wane and wax, so does this unit's value. So looking at Divine Breath, automatically here you get an attack +3, which is nice. You get an Omni 4 plus X, which is the number of dragon and dragon effective units times 3, and that's within 4 spaces, which is nice. You get a max of 9 out of that, which actually is a max of 13, by the way. You get true damage equals 25% times units attack minus foes res, and then you get a 25% damage reduction off of the first attack. As far as Divine Fang Plus, you get dragon effective, 2 adjacent allies, which is fantastic. I wish this would have been in 2 spaces. It would have changed this weapon quite a bit. But then 2 unit and allies within 2 spaces, you get an offensive guaranteed follow-up, and then you get a visible attack speed +6. This is a better unit than folks give it credit for. The melee frontliner role is interesting. You're probably wondering, does this work? The answer is yes, asterisk. If you have null follow-up on this unit, this 100% works. It is kind of fantastic to have a mythic that can be some sort of combat role. But you have to get null follow-up on her. So that's Byleth, that is Alencia, that is some other way to get null follow-up on here, which is not easy with flyers. So until they come up with some sort of flyer null follow-up, you're kind of stuck with what you get here. Still a good build though, something that I run regularly. As far as the player phase, and this is again for the Wings of Mercy in, but this unit can actually smack things, and if we ever get a Dragon Gale Force, this unit is a fantastic Gale Force unit, or will be. But anyway, we get attack speed clash because you're moving enough spaces warping in that it actually takes effect, which is nice. And last but not least, we have an arena build, which this is actually really good with all the dragons that are in arena right now. This unit does a phenomenal job helping your team just destroy things. And 756 isn't the lowest, again, it isn't the best, but it's still usable in a lot of the scoring situations. All right, we're moving up the ranks, and we've got Plumeria and Seiðr here, both very good units, and we'll talk about them and how they're doing here. Plumeria is hot off a remix and about to get a refine. We've kind of got an image of what they're going to do with this unit. It's nothing spectacular. This unit is still going to be amazing because they're a Mythic Dancer, and that is always good because they force you to have those on your team, and they are easily put into multiple different squads, whether you're doing hit and run, whether you're doing Gale Force, or whether you're doing tanking. Always good. But most of the goodness comes from the inheritable skills right now, especially in this case. And we'll go over this unit, but I mean, in the current theme, we have high attack, high res, and dump speed and dump defense. The fact is, she is a ranged dancing flyer, so there aren't a whole lot of stats to work with. But still, that is a good amount of attack. Let's look at the weapon. So Flower of Plenty, this is going to be updated very soon, but you get a res +3, and then to allies within 5 rows and 3 columns, you get attack res +3. Dude, that's so low. Like that is hilarious. Let's go over to Sweet Dreams Plus though, and we've got grants another action, obviously. And then to target, you get an Omni +5, you get an offensive guaranteed follow-up, and then you get adaptive damage. Adaptive damage is better than people give it credit for, but it is in the current meta, like that is not going to shift a whole lot of what this unit does. Still great to have, and you're happy getting it. The other thing is to nearest foes within 5 spaces instead of 4, you get an Omni -5. Let's take a look at the builds for this unit. And so this is in support of Omni tanks. Rock Slide Dance is phenomenal, and this unit can run that and attack res ploy 3 and can increase the survivability of your Omni tank dramatically. Whether you use that or Firestorm Dance depends a lot on whether you're doing player phase or enemy phase. With player phase, you want to use Firestorm Dance, obviously, because the Desperation is kind of fantastic. As far as a Gale Force build here, though, I've got her more with a Wings of Mercy 4, and it's fantastic on Mythic Dancers because you have to have these on your team anyway. It's kind of interesting the lack of player phase units we have on Astra Season, and this is one of the few that performs the role very well because Dancer. I've got Soaring Guidance on here. Understand that Soaring Guidance on any of these builds is fantastic. Keep that in mind, but that combined with Guidance 3 kind of lets a wide range of units be able to warp around you. You throw on Attack, Oath, Echo, and I think this is one of the few units that you can give this to and be confident in. This unit will be able to warp around and have an absolute blast. Please wait till after Hurrifying though, like it is very, very soon. So keep that in mind. I doubt this is the type of thing that's going to age poorly, though, just to be honest with you. Again, supportive effects very rarely are bad to put on a unit. But again, wait, it's only a couple weeks. As far as the arena build, 754 is low, but I've talked about this so much, it is worth it for a dancer. Dancers are phenomenal in arena because they make the mode palatable. On this one in particular, I've got Firestorm Dance, which is fantastic, R-Dual Flying, which is terrible, and Guidance 4 because you're going to have more armors in Arena. I love this build. I run it in Arena. I highly recommend this. This is phenomenal. This is apparently just my tier because this is another unit that I really love. Seiðr is so unique and she gives out a lot of interesting effects. Now, high attack of 64 naturally is fantastic. High res of 47, mediocre speed, which is always the worst kind of speed, but this unit does enough that I like the way she runs. So first up, we have her weapon, which is +1 slaying, Omni +5. True damage of 20% times attack, and that includes AoEs. You get a guaranteed follow-up, and then to unit and allies within 2 at the start of your turn, you get follow-up denial, which is very nice. As far as future focused, it is easier to explain in words because I have no icons for that, but it ends the action of closest foes in cardinal directions if the res check is met. And keep in mind, the res check is harder to meet the further you get away from the enemy. You can already see how powerful this unit is going to be in really any phase. You want to use them in player phase and hit and run and Gale Force, or you want to use this unit in enemy phase and just turn off one of your main threats. This unit can do a whole lot of good for you. Let's go over the AoE build because I don't think most people know about this. I've talked about this before, but the real magic of the AoE build is you go in, you hit a unit, and think about a Catria ball. You go in, you hit a unit, you take them out. You've weakened the other units, you dance, you go again, you get in the middle of 3 units. So imagine the block of units that they always have, and you're sticking yourself in the middle. You can shut down 3 units that way. It is so satisfying when it works. I seriously, I've done this before and I was so proud. Anyway, as far as the support build, which is more likely what you're going to be running on this unit, you've got Sabotage AR3, which is fantastic. And yeah, that's really the only addition here. Phantom Res is important because it's nice, but other than that, yeah, you get 1 skill on this unit and you are good to go. As far as the scoring, I've got Chill Attack Res, which is nice. It's what she comes with. There are a lot of other options on there, but you can just keep that and you'll be just fine. G-Dual Cavalry 4 is a necessity, and unfortunately, Odor has it, and no one wants to summon for Odor. I guess the good news is you won't worry about having to fodder that off because it's Odor. Oh, poor Odor. But that closes out Tier 1, and we're about to get into Tier 0. Now, these are units, and well, 2 of them are already fairly well built, but we'll talk about why they're here and what makes them good. Let's go over Veyle first, and I just think Scowl is incredible. Such a good drive skill, and I love that there are ways to turn it off. This is a brand new unit. We haven't fully tested this out, but I want to talk about different ways to build her. But again, you've got mediocre speed, high attack, high res. We have a theme for Astra. Let's first go over the weapon, and this is a lot. This was hard to type up. So we've got Slang and in combat Omni +5. True damage equals 20% of res. You've got lull attack res, which is good. You've got a guaranteed follow-up, and to unit and allies within 2 spaces, you've got resonant blades and resonant shields. All of that's fantastic, especially the resonant blades and resonant shields. That is such a good supportive effect and excellent if you're running any kind of prime skills on your Omni tank. As far as Fel Protection, which is her preference C skill, you get an in combat attack res +5, and then to unit and allies within 2 spaces, you get DR equals 30% if your res is greater than foe's res. You get Scowl if your res is greater than foe's res, +5. And then you get attack res +4, and that's for allies only, not for this unit. So keep in mind, this has a lot of counterplay, and you have to have a high res unit to get this out, but still, those are really good effects. Let's talk about summoner duels, and obviously this unit is going to be in a Catria ball. You're probably wondering, what did I do to this unit? But here's the thing. AoE builds are incredible, and on this unit, 83 visible attack is really good. So you hit once, and then you've got magical null follow-up for an additional hit. This unit is going to be able to smack things around. Keep in mind, the main defense towards this kind of attack is Dragon Wall, and that depends on the dragon having higher defense than Veyle. This unit has 65 res for this build. That is a ton. So this unit is going to be able to use AoEs and really be able to punch through things that normal units can't. As far as support goes, you've got attack res finish 4, because I think that's a really good skill. For Sabotage AR3, you could probably run that Stillwater 4 again, but it takes a little bit away from her attack, and 57 res is already very high. That's with a boon. And then you've got Speed Tactic, which again, I think you can run fairly well in Astra season, although it is always difficult to run that on an infantry unit because you can only have one other infantry unit that has that. But you can swap that out for just about any of the supportive seals that you'd like, whether that's a drive, speed, or whatever else you have there. Also, chill speed is another good one. So we get to Arena, and a score of 756 is good. Flare on this unit. I didn't mention it in the support build, but Flare is so good on this unit. Keep in mind that does your damage based off of res, and she has very high res. It's very complementary to how this unit plays. You've got attack res finish 4, which I think you can just keep on her, which comes with Null Sea Disrupt 4. Now hear me out. What you're doing here is you're taking this unit and becoming a ranged tank. The combination of the Scowl effect and the built-in damage reduction to this unit, as well as the damage reduction in Null Sea Disrupt, means that you can hit units back like Hinoka, and you can probably win that matchup, which is crazy. You know, Hinoka really relies on that second hit with Deadeye. Another unit that you could easily take out, surprisingly, I can't believe I'm saying that, but Veronica is one that you could be able to take out with this unit as well. There are a lot of ranged units that this unit can take on, and it is always very powerful to be able to take a unit out in enemy phase because it takes less doing to get them out and out of the range of the other remaining units. But I am a huge fan of Veyle. I think this is a really fun unit. As far as Heiðr goes, Heiðr is good in a number of different modes. Just plug her in and she's amazing. Her supportive effects are great, and she is a just monster with how much damage she puts out. You get an attack 59, speed 45. You kind of feel like she should have followed the trend and had high res, but she actually has a higher defense. But this is a great unit. First up, we have her weapon, Heiðr. So we have Slang, we have in combat +5. You get true damage equals 15% times attack. That does not include AoEs, which is unfortunate, but you get a damage reduction equals 30% from first attack, which has swept the meta and is very good. And if Rally Assist is used, you get a Ruse. So you get an Omni +4 to units in Cardinal as well as Guard. Very, very powerful, especially when you see Harrowing Dream, which is worked kind of like a rally, but it gives you another action. We've seen this before, but to unit and target. Okay, so on turn 1, on turn 1 and on, you get attack speed plus X, which is the whatever turn it's on, times 2, max of 8. That is a visible 8 you can get, which is our highest visible that you can get right now, and it's phenomenal. On turn 2 and on, you get Canto, another fantastic skill, especially on this unit. And then on turn 3 and on, you get Treachery, which is really fantastic, especially if you consider that that 8 attack and 8 speed. And then on turn 4 plus you get Dual Strike. I'm gonna be honest, on turn 4 and on, normally you don't get that far, but it is still nice to have. So it is something that can come in clutch at the end of the game. It's just normally not something that comes into play on initiation, because I mean, at Aether Raids, you're not going to wait that long, and most Summon Duels matches don't last that long. Moving on here. First up, we have an AoE, and we talked about the fact that this unit doesn't get true damage added onto that, but 91 attack, and I went ahead and added that plus 8, so keep that in mind. But that is not out of the realm of possibility. That is very, very real, and probably the way you're going to want to use this unit. But that's fantastic. Magical no follow-up is already on her and is fantastic. And then you get Time Spells 4, which drops the cooldown down to 2 and makes it easier to get there. For Summoner Duels, I didn't put Flare on this unit. I would like to see a little more res, and I like Ruptured Sky better. But I mean, if you want to do that, you can run some sims and see how that pans out. Attack Speed Unity is fantastic in that mode. You are not going to change off of Magical Null Follow-Up. And I believe this unit is very good. Is a very good Canto candidate, because Canto Control is very powerful on units that don't need their C skill to function, and this is it. This unit has all of the things. The last but not least is the Arena build, and I mean, I would love to have this in Arena. Remote Sparrow gives that extra survivability. Magical Null Follow-Up is fantastic in that mode, and Attack Speed Oath 4 for just that extra attack and speed. Obviously, you're getting bonuses from Gold Serpent, so it's a little bit of a waste there, but there are other things you can do. Attack Speed Pledge is another option and would be fantastic on her. I saved Altina for last, and this unit has been so interesting. If you're wondering why she's so high, she is still hard carrying people in Summoner Duels. Still. And no one bans her, and she just wrecks stuff. I have a hard time ranking her any lower because of that. I don't love her in Aether Raids. Please understand that. You can use her. It is possible, and I mean, Dual Phase Brave is always good. There is always a place for those type of units, but just understand that if you're building her up, you're building her up more for Summoner Duels than you are anything else. Let's go over this monstrous build here. I won't be going over Twin Blades, so just real quickly, that boosts damage by 40% of units res, she already has high res, and disables damage reduction, which is fantastic. Percent-based damage reduction. Ragnall Alondite, we get distant counter on the weapon, we get a speed -5 visible that isn't great, but she doesn't really need the speed. You get an in-combat attack res +5, you get special acceleration, and you get lull attack defense. Like, this is made for Summoner Duels, I'm telling you guys. Ashera's Chosen Plus is Iot's Shield, which is fantastic. Attack res defense +9, because for some reason they couldn't give this unit more speed. God forbid she outspeed. I don't know who she would outspeed, honestly, even with 9 extra. But we get true damage equals 70% of units res minus foes res and max of 7. Most of the time you're going to get that max of 7. And then you've got a Dragon Wall built in, which is that res-based damage reduction. Let's move on to the builds here. As far as the support, and I think support builds are probably what you're going to be using most in Aether Raids, although there is a possibility you could use a Gale Force build, and I went over that long ago in her Refine Hit, and I still think that's good, but most of the time this is probably the way you're going to be using her, with Sabotage AR3 because she has high res, and as well as a defense res ploy. I think is a good build on her and it's a lot of fun. For Summoner Duels, Guard Bearing 4 is phenomenal on this unit and makes her a force to be reckoned with. I like Soaring Guidance better than I do Guidance 4. It does depend on your team a bit, but for the most part when you're running armors, they are given orders by either Cordelia or from Catria, and so they really don't need to move more than that adjacent space as opposed to the 2 spaces up. There's very rare occasions where I need that to happen. But anyway, this is a very good build for Summoner Duels and an excellent both melee frontliner and a raid boss. As far as arena, 754 is low, and that's with our dual flying 4. Like, you're giving up a lot on this unit because you can't use Ashera's Chosen. It's not a build that I would go out of my way for, but just know that if you have her built up, it is something you can do if you need a score bot in a pinch. So let's just step back and take a look at this as a whole. Just looking at the Astra Mythics, you'll notice that they really are moving away from giving us score bots that are also Mythics, which I don't love. I really love the old school days when you got Peony, and she was both an excellent scoring unit and an excellent Aether Raids unit, and you just used her everywhere. They're really trying to diversify and make you summon more units. I don't love that, but any of the 756s can be used. Again, there are more scoring modes than just arena, so keep that in mind. What I've done here, on top of putting their score next to them, I've started to look at kind of the trends and where they're going. I think this is important to look at when you're investing. Know that things like Veyle, because we are so special dependent right now, trending up. Also, she just released. So as far as Heiðr goes, I think this unit continues to climb, and as we continue to find ways to use her, and particularly in player-phase scenarios, I think she's phenomenal. You've got Altina, and Altina with all of the sweep effects has started to come down and may very well possibly be in tier 1 soon. We've got Plumeria. The reason I have her up is she is literally days away from getting her refined, and honestly, they could give her anything and it would be good, other than trying to make her like combat worthy, which would be really bizarre. That would not be in keeping with her kit and would surprise me. But for the most part, I think this unit is heading up. Seiðr, I've got her just staying steady. And that's what that exclamation point means. It's not always a good thing to stay steady, because normally it means you're about to head down. But I still think this is a very powerful unit that is going to have value for a very long time. Okay, the double arrows next to Elimine does not mean she'll be moving into tier 3 next week. It more means the fact that she fell from the absolute best Astra Mythic all the way down to tier 2, which hurt. Like, that's tough. I do think she's leveled out there for all the reasons we talked about. Healers are good in Aether Raids. Like, having a mythic that is a healer is fantastic. And then you've got Naga, who I think is staying steady right now. If we move away from dragons, her value will go down, but I still think she's a usable unit. We have tier 3, and the big problem here is we've got units that in general have a certain use and are not good at that use anymore. Reginn, the reason she is heading up is I think they've recently given her a lot of good skills. I also expect a refine, not immediately, but it is coming. Thorr, I've got going down, and honestly, she just lacks the power to be a Gale Force initiator right now, and that stings. That's tough. Ashera is just hard to use and is so, I won't even say counter meta, that's the wrong word, contra meta is really what I'm looking at. The way the meta wants you to build units right now is through debuffs and all of that great stuff, and she either nullifies them or, yeah, it is just, the stuff she does is not fantastic in the meta right now. The last thing I want to go over is just some of my favorite builds, and this is utterly subjective. So all of that other stuff, I try very hard to be objective and give you guys like good ratings and all of that. This is just stuff that I think is really fun that is in the meta right now. And the first, I've got to talk about this Reginn build. I have used this. Summoners, this is really, really fun. I don't know that it really pushes the needle on your team, but it is a way to use Reginn when you haven't been able to lately because she just hasn't been fantastic. The next step is the Summoner Duels build for Altina. If you hate Summoner Duels, this is an easy way to get your easy wins and then hop out. Like, this is a fantastic build and something you can work on. I have a +0 Altina, and it's working on her, so just keep that in mind. Last but not least is this Seiðr build, and this AoE build is better than you realize. Keep in mind the true damage on top of what this unit's doing. This is such a fun build and can lead to some real creativity. Whew. Okay, this is an utterly new thing. Leave me in the comments if you liked it, what you would like to see different. I can't guarantee that I will get to all of the suggestions, but I do read all of them, and thank you so much to the members. You guys are fantastic. If you liked the video, you can become one. If you'd like to support more, you can do super chats. That's always appreciated. If you want to look at a video I just put out that was similar to this, I just did a rearmed builds and tier list that was a lot of work and a lot of fun. Go check that out. Take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.